Cherry pulled herself together and was just about to speak, but Justin frowned and asked the tutor what she had been thinking. What kind of special measures? The tutor sighed and replied, Pete was born autistic. He doesn't like to talk, nor does he know how to communicate with others. If this goes on, it'll impede his development. I think you should consider either sending him to medical specialists for treatment or to a school for children with special needs. Her eyes shone after she spoke. If Pete was sent to a special needs school, he'd be diagnosed as having a severe learning disability. Then they'd be able to ruin his future, just as she'd been instructed to do. Justin's expression instantly darkened. He retorted fiercely, Pete is fine. He doesn't need to attend a school for children with special needs. If you can't teach him, then I'll find someone else. Lawrence? Yes, sir. Settle her wages immediately, Justin ordered. She doesn't need to come in anymore. The tutor was shocked by his sudden anger. Putting on a sincere, earnest expression, she said, I am the top domestic tutor in the state, Mr. Hunt. My advice is undoubtedly in your son's best interests. But since you refuse to listen to the truth, then forget I said anything. I enjoyed myself very much during my time with Pete. Goodbye. Her speech was what an exemplary tutor would be expected to say. Justin's anger faded a little, and he said, Give her an extra 6 months' wages. The tutor was ecstatic. 6 months' wages was a lot of money, especially added to what the old lady had given her. Cherry, who was listening to them intently, was pleased. Daddy hadn't given up on Pete. He cared and was protective of him. It was just that he'd been deceived by that wicked tutor. As she watched her walk happily toward the door, Cherry's quick mind sprang into action. Her big eyes stared up at Justin innocently, and she asked him, Daddy, am I a little bastard without a mother? Justin was taken aback. He looked down at the child who was gazing up at him so trustingly. The young, innocent voice made what the child said next sound particularly heartbreaking. Am I really stupid? Is it Mummy's fault that I'm not as smart as Daddy? Justin was shocked. He restrained his fury and asked gently, Who told you these things, Pete? Cherry stretched out her arm and pointed her chubby little finger at the door. She did. At the door, the tutor's legs turned to jelly the instant she heard the accusation. She could feel Justin's anger and said fearfully, Stop spouting nonsense, Pete. Cherry hid behind Justin and hugged his leg. She stuck her tongue out at the tutor and said, Please don't hit me again. I'm sorry. The tutor looked at her in surprise. Is that really the little dimwit who doesn't talk? Seeing how fearful his son looked, Justin didn't give the tutor a chance to explain any further. He ordered, Take her out, Lawrence. Yes, sir. Lawrence grabbed the tutor and pushed her firmly into the hallway. Justin rubbed Cherry on the head comfortingly and said, Can you play by yourself for a while, Pete? He knew what was about to happen would not be suitable for children. Cherry wanted to stay with her father, but she knew he needed to deal with the tutor first. She nodded, Okay, Daddy. Justin only left the room after seeing Cherry pick up a toy car. Lawrence was an efficient man. He'd already got the truth out of the tutor. He explained what she'd told him. It's your uncle and his family that bribed them. They want to make Pete into a stubborn, problematic child so that their own children can take over the corporation. The 2 tutors were sent by your grandmother, which explains why we didn't vet them properly. We didn't suspect a thing. We won't be so negligent next time. But Grandma loves Pete more than anyone. How could she? Justin looked at the trembling woman, backed up against the wall, and headed for her, planting his hands on the wall either side of her head and leaning in until their faces were only inches apart. He hissed, You'll never work with children again. You hear me? You're done. Get out of my sight. Justin returned to the room. When he saw the child he thought to be his son on the sofa playing with the toy car, his heart tightened with guilt. Pete had been with Justin since he'd been a baby. He'd done everything for him. Cared for him, nursed him, changed his diapers, everything a father should. But Pete hadn't started to talk. When they'd seen a doctor about it, Justin was told that Pete had autism. As Pete slowly grew older, he was able to start having short conversations with people. That was, until the incident last week. It's all my fault. Justin walked over and sat beside Cherry. He softened his voice and said, "Daddy is sorry, Pete." Cherry stretched out her little arms and hugged him. "Everything will be fine, Daddy. Thanks for saying sorry. Can we start again and be different now?" Justin sighed. Then he said seriously, "We won't engage any more tutors. I'll be teaching you from now on. We'll get started right now. How about that?" Cherry was taken aback. She hated having to do homework. Help, Pete. When Nora returned to the room, she found a child she thought to be her daughter sitting on the sofa and waiting for her obediently, instead of playing games on her phone like she usually did. She walked over and kissed the child on the forehead. "You're so well behaved today, baby." He stared at her longingly, and then noticed her looking at him with a half-amused smile. "Are you intending to take a bath with me, Cherry?" Only then did Pete realize with a start that he'd been so lost in his daydreaming that he'd gotten up and followed her to the bathroom. He was about to leave, but Nora stooped over and picked him up. She said, "Forget it. Let's give you a bath first." Alarm bells rang in Pete's head. If she bathed him, she'd definitely find out he was a boy and not Cherry after all. His identity would be revealed.
What will happen when Nora realizes that the child she thinks is Cherry is actually Pete? Will Nora and Justin come together to confront the truth about their children and their family's hidden motives? To find out, download the Pocket FM app now. Link in the description. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more gripping stories.